Thank you to everyone who came out for episode 11 of the We Are CC podcast. Tom Crown will not be with us, so unfortunately, I will be doing the intro this time around. So, joining us tonight, the man who is exhausted trying to think of clever intros for everyone. I'm going to start calling everyone the Fantastic Four. I don't know, is that taken? The guy who has a higher net worth than his professors, Oz. Our friend, Mr. Mister. He should be here just a little bit late. And Mr. X of no relation to the professor or the X-Men. I actually never asked him what his name means, but I assume he's not a mutant. All right. And if you want to check out any of our earlier episodes, feel free to visit us at ccpodcast.buzzsprout.com. All right. Our favorite and usually our first topic is Bitcoin. I know it's the boomer coin of the market, but it's also the king. It's also the most important. So something happened this week, and I'm going to quiz you guys. Something happened this week that happens very rarely for Bitcoin. This is the first time it's happened in nearly 8 months. Let's throw it to Oz. Pop quiz, Oz. What was it?
I'm just gonna pretend I don't have the agenda up right now. I'm gonna hazard a guess and say it was something to do with an EMA crossing another EMA.
Boy, I know you read that, but yes, let's pretend. Yeah, so Oz is right. What he's saying when he's saying EMA, he's saying the moving average, which is just kind of a, when you look at the charts, it's an average of the past period's price over a certain amount of time. So like 100 moving average would be an average of the past 100 of whatever time frame you're on. Could be hours, could be days. So anyways, the weekly MACD, which is a derivative of that type of data, it's a momentum indicator. The weekly MACD has crossed bullish. This is the first time since early August that's happened. And the last time it happened before that was October of 2020. And Mr. X, maybe you can tell me what followed August 21, October of 2020.
It was, I'm going to pull up the agenda too and cheat.
Well, I can tell you.
Sorry, I'm juggling 2 mutes over here and stuff. I'm good now.
No worries. I'll tell you the easy answer. The easy answer is price went up. Price went up a lot. If you guys were in the market in October of 2020 and you had a position and you held that for a few months, you made a lot of money. August of 2021. I think it was maybe the beginning of the second week of August 2021 was when we also saw that weekly MACD cross bullish. And in that case, that was maybe, a week and a half to 2 weeks after that incredible bounce we had in late July, when everyone thought we were surely going down to 20K. And then boom, Bitcoin just said, nope, time to go up. So does that mean that it's going to happen again? No, certainly not. It's not a guarantee, but it's worth keeping an eye on. Now, other Bitcoin news. Did we mention that 90% of Bitcoin is officially mined as of this past week? That's crazy. Oz, you're going to have to tell me what it's like, though, when the rest of it finishes, because Poppy will be long gone, because that's going to be like 2140, I think. How old are you going to be by then?
I'm not very good at maths. I'm gonna guess 150. I'm probably wrong. No, that sounds really off. Somewhere around there.
You're not bad. You're not good at this math thing, man. I feel like, in the time that you're going to be alive, they're going to find a way to slow down aging, or maybe you'll go into like a robot body or something by then. But I hope you'll get to see that day. So what's going to happen when they get to when they finally mint the last Bitcoin? Do you guys know this?
That's actually something I've been wondering, and it's like, so what happens to the incentives? Do they continue? How does that work for miners?
Yeah, so at that point the rewards would switch to a different model. Satoshi saw this coming. They'll be paid through transaction fees. At that point, I think, there obviously the rate of rewards for Bitcoin goes down. I think it's at like 6.5 Bitcoins per block mine now.
6.25 or something.
Yeah, and I think in the next halvening, which is 2024, that goes down to half of that. So like 3 point something. I don't know. By 2140, I can imagine it's very small. So hopefully by then, Bitcoin's like, $100 million. One of the interesting things that came out of this past week, and the first person that came to mind when I saw this news, Sukebi in the Discord RCC, frequently a critic of his government, as many of us are, in the UK. But the UK came out this week and they want to become a crypto hub. Okay, that's cool. But did you guys hear the full story? Have you guys seen this yet?
Yeah, they want to release an NFT with the Royal Mint. It's crazy.
What's all this?
Man,
I haven't heard about this. What's going on?
yeah. So basically, there was a quote, and Oz, you're going to have to correct me if I say this wrong. The UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Exchequer Rishi Sunak. So someone within the UK government in charge of financial things.
He's like the head of finance.
Yeah. He says, my ambition to make the UK a global hub for crypto asset technology, and the measures we've outlined today will ensure that. He says those moves include stablecoins being brought within regulation. All right, that's what everyone else is doing, right? Additional measures include working with the Royal Mint, which produces the UK's coinage, to establish an NFT that will act as an emblem of the forward-looking approach the government intends to take.
Yeah, it's crazy.
One of the leading governments, or one of the leading economies of the world, saying, hey, we're about to make an official NFT. I guess that would be the Queen's NFT, right? I mean, she owns the mint.
Yeah, Royal Mint.
So all those jokes about the Queen minting her own, crown NFT, crown token or something kind of came true.
They're all starting to dip a toe, like, El Salvador. I wonder how they're doing. How's El Salvador doing? Anybody got the latest on that?
Probably very happy right now.
But isn't the president going to Bitcoin 2022?
Does Tom get to meet him? That'd be awesome.
Tom Crown may.
He's got to show our podcast.
Yeah, Tom Crown will be at Bitcoin 2022. I told him they should rename it to the Crown Conference on Cryptocurrency since he's going, but it's a little late. While we're on the topic, now I'm really curious. So I'm looking at the list. It's just an incredible list, and some of the performers and stuff. Wow, they're really making this exciting. We'll get back to that though, and we'll confirm if I was right about that. Oh yeah, I was right. So Nayib Bukele, President El Salvador, he will be there.
No kidding.
That's so cool.
Heads of state at a crypto conference. Tom Crown, if you're listening, you need to go say hi, make friends. We'll record the next podcast from El Salvador.
Maybe if he shows enough, we might get him as a guest, and I think the possibility of that is highly likely.
He's gonna get beat up by their Secret Service, man.
Yeah, you know what's that guy? So that guy's all over the place in crypto. Actually, if you start looking, what I thought was really wild was there was this, for lack of a better word, we'll just call it scammy metaverse project that I had been looking at early 2021, and when I say I was the only one in the Discord probably for like 3 months. I think I was like the only guy in there. And I asked them a few questions. They said nothing. I just like left the room in my Discord. I never went back. But anyway, sometime late in 2021, I don't know what changed. I think they started this big marketing campaign for something that didn't exist, right? This was just like pure vaporware. They had a really good marketing gimmick, shtick, but they didn't have anything functional. But anyways, and I find thousands and thousands of people in this Discord suddenly, and I'm like, what's going on? And their token is like mooning. And then I dig a little deeper, and I find that one of their team had gone to El Salvador and met with the president and his team, and they took pictures, and they I'll leave it at that. I'll just say it was really wild. I still think this project's, in my opinion, a complete scam, but I think that that these countries like El Salvador, they get so much attention from so many different projects. I am sure that, and especially as an emerging technology like crypto, it's hard to filter out, what's good, what's bad. They probably just say, hey, you're crypto, you might have some money, you might have some investments. Sure, come on out. We'll meet with you.
Bukele is pretty much the new Elon Musk. Anything he touches is just going to moon.
He's kind of a little celebrity now, I suppose, beyond just being a president, right? We'll go back to this Intel topic. I want to talk about this. This one is important. If you listen to nothing else on this podcast, this is the one you got to listen to. Waves, the token Waves. You probably have seen it, maybe. It had a sizable moon recently. An individual by the name of 0xHamZ did a great write-up about how the Waves team is artificially boosting their token price, and effectively they're really achieving the spirit of a Ponzi. And if you look, the stable coin that's part of Waves has lost its peg, and it's started to drop under $1. Basically, what we're telling you guys is get out. If you're doing anything in Waves, be very careful. One, that's a really shady thing to do, but two, it's not safe. I mean, you don't know what kind of volatility is going to be hitting now, unless maybe you want to try it, a small short. Have you guys? I know, Oz, you do a lot of trading. Have you traded Waves? Did you ride that wave up?
No. I mean, I've seen it in a lot of Signal groups recently. They seem to love it, but Wave just doesn't seem very attractive to me as a token. And usually before I trade a token, I just, do a quick Google search, and yeah, it kind of pumped too quick for my liking. So I never really traded it, but I really like this report. Well, not report, but I mean, kind of like an inquiry from Hams, because it pretty much uncovered something that nobody was looking at. So he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it's incredible. That gentleman, I was going to say, if you guys want to follow someone that obviously is very good at what he does, this 0xHamZ, I don't know him. I never talked to him. I just bumped into his post maybe a week ago. But his write-up on how this scam is going, we'll call it a scam, how this Ponzi scam is going down is really well written, really easy to follow. But basically what they're doing is they're selling their tokens to buy USDC. Then they're using that USDC to buy more Waves, but this can only work up to a certain amount. And I won't do it justice by trying to explain it, but basically they kind of hit that peak, and now the whole Ponzi is kind of falling apart. Yeah, definitely do your own research, but if something is too good to be true, often it is in crypto. You guys got to be wary of those kind of out of the blue pumps like that. That means, especially like when you see these old coins from like 2015 to 2018, 2019, that haven't seen much action for a few years, suddenly start pumping out of the blue. That's a warning sign. If you already didn't have bags of it, don't go and ape into these like 3, 4, 5-year-old coins and expect that they're going to hold that value. Very rarely do they. Very rarely.
The chances are the devs for the coin as well probably haven't done anything in the last few years. So in reality, the coin probably just got posted on a pump and dump, and you're going to be the exit liquidity.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty bad move.
There's so many angles for scams now with DeFi in place, because all these white papers can give these super convoluted explanations of how their coin or their token operates, and people just YOLO into it anyway and just skip right over all the work. Everybody's just jumping on everything, trying to make their millions and millions in one shot.
Yeah, but in DeFi's defense, because I don't want it to come off sounding like DeFi is a big scary place, there's a ton of great projects out there.
No, that's true.
I think the risk you run into, though, is that one, DeFi, and I say this as someone that's worked on projects, DeFi is really hard. There's a lot of competition. The innovations, they come quick. The market changes so quickly, and it's hard to keep pace with that. And you might innovate. You may go in a direction that you think's really a good idea for DeFi, a good idea for users, and maybe it is, but the market may be trending in a completely different way. And what that does is that leaves a lot of, decent projects, but with very low liquidity, very low trading volume, just kind of sitting there on the sidelines. There's quite a few of these. And so another thing these groups do, these pump and dump groups, is they look for those low liquidity projects, and then they just kind of artificially hype up some, a little bit of marketing for it, but they've already allocated their bags. They've picked up bags, for maybe a month before that. And then because it's low liquidity, it doesn't take much to start pumping that up and then get some FOMO going and then dump their bags. I'm not encouraging this, by the way. Don't try it. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of ways to game the system would be the answer here.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's taking advantage. That's why everybody's making all their own metaverse too. They're all throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's always every sort of trend within crypto. You're gonna find the market leader and then 5,000 clones. And sometimes you're lucky. Some of those clones, sometimes they out innovate the market leader, right? But I think rarely. So first mover advantage is significant. We saw that this past cycle with Ethereum, right? There is no doubt that these other chains are faster than what Ethereum is right now, that they're cheaper than what Ethereum is right now. But have any of them displaced Ethereum? They've certainly chewed into its market share. Collectively, it's lost almost half of its market share in DeFi. But in terms of just the overall market, it's still the leader. It still has over 50% of DeFi TVL. It still has the lion's share of NFT, volume. And I think we'll see how it does, when it comes to later in this year when Ethereum has the
1.5, the merge or whatever.
Yeah, the merge, which we haven't talked about.
1.5 is coming this year. That's the merge. And then I think the official 2.0 is estimated at 2023. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's the sharding technology. And that's what's supposed to resolve all the bottlenecking issues. And I think that's what everybody's holding out for. And if they do it right and it works, then, ETH, you think ETH is expensive now? Just wait. It's
going to be a whole lot of fun.
It's going to be insane. It's going to blow up because everybody's going to want a piece of it. If it can transact as fast and as cheap as they think it can, then all these projects and all these innovations that are being held back by these gas fees, nobody even wants to move their Shiba even, because it's too expensive, and now we'll be able to everything's going to start flying around. It's going to be insane.
So true. I still have bags. I can finally unleash some of my bags, my small bags I had locked up in like Yearn when, before the bull cycle last year, that was just cheap. So I just dropped like $50 in there, and then gas rose, to the point where it's like $200 to $400 a transaction at a certain point, and I was like, yeah, you're just gonna stay in there.
Yeah, just being able to move it to another wallet, cheap. It's gonna be nice.
If someone could solve that issue, I'd be very grateful. But
getting close.
Yeah, I know we're gonna talk about Ethereum on some later podcasts, and maybe what we would hope for, what we expect. And what we've seen so far, but yeah, not this week. Although I'm super excited about that. Sharding just sounds so cool. So Intel built some new chips, and this is the part that excites me about this, is when you see all these big players, these industry leaders, because Intel is arguably the microprocessor microchip market leader globally. But when you see people like that building microchips specifically for crypto, specifically for mining, that's cool stuff. That shows you how far we've come. It's only been, 13 years since the Genesis block was mined, was minted, whatever, for Bitcoin. And in those 13 years, now you have the largest, most successful chip producer producing Bitcoin mining specific chips. So they have a new one, and this really plays into the sustainability angle that a lot of people in the crypto space are looking at. The idea of proof of work and how energy intensive it is really getting a lot of shade from a lot of different folks. And I do want to give some kudos. I think a lot of that too is the Zoomer generation. To me, just anecdotally, it strikes me as a very environmentally conscious generation. And I can respect that a lot. And if it drives technology and it drives innovation in a certain direction that can be more energy and fuel efficient and all these other industries, that's a good thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be more efficient. If I can pay less money to drive somewhere, I'd be happy about that, right? So yeah, I don't know. Didn't you do some mining before?
Yeah, I used to mine ETH for quite a while, and not only was electric expensive, but just generally the GPUs were really expensive because there's a global silicon shortage right now. Don't know if you noticed, but pretty much anything with electronics in it has gone up in price massively simply because they can't make enough. And as a miner, all I need is cards. That's how I'm profitable. I buy cards and I mine with them. So it becomes a pretty big problem when cards are expensive. But now you have Intel who's coming and making specific chips. Hopefully it can take some of the strain off, because also another big problem people have with crypto mining is that it takes away cards from the general market. So if they make crypto specific chips, maybe that'll kind of fix that angle for the general public.
It's not even the general public. I'm just going to remind everyone that I was like I just upgraded. I had a 1080 Ti. You know how old that thing is? I had that until just late last year.
Crazy.
That's because of that chip shortage, man. I blame the miners.
I had a 980 not that long ago. I got a good mining story that I like to tell. You guys want to hear it?
Of course.
This was way back in the day. This had to be like, I don't know. It had to be around 2013 or 2014, because this is when I first started like trying to understand what Bitcoin was. I read about it on TechSpot. It was old tech articles that I used to read all the time. They used to be really good. I don't know if they're still around. Anyway, so I was trying to figure it out. I downloaded the miner and got the update and all that stuff, and I let it run for I don't remember how long. I think it was either a few days or I think it was just a few days, and it mined like 0.01 Bitcoin, and it was worth like 3 cents or something. I was like, this is so stupid, and I just deleted it all.
You just got rid of it?
Yeah, man.
Oh man.
Yeah, if I just let that sit, because mining wasn't crazy like it is now. If I just let it sit, just let it run, because it wasn't it was on that 980 Ti, I think or might have been the computer before that, but anyway, if I'd have just let that run, even though it's a few cents,
that is painful.
Can you imagine how much I would have now?
There's so many stories like that in crypto. I mean, I bet all of us could look back, even over the past year. There were things we may have been in that we sold early, or things we thought about getting and we didn't, that if we just did it, we would be mega retired, right? Come on, I know you guys did. What else do you got? You got one of those stories?
Yes, I have one from literally yesterday. One of my random little small caps mooned 500% in 3 minutes, and like only a few of my sell orders filled, which is kind of sad.
I got a good one about Doge. You'll like this. So
sure. What'd you do with Doge?
So way back in the day, this was actually around 2016 when I first started getting serious about trading, and I really wanted to learn. Got into one of those, subscribed to my class and stuff, and it was really good. It wasn't like a scammy one or anything. It actually was like really good about teaching fundamentals and stuff. And so as a joke, we would send Doge to each other, like fill up each other's wallets with millions and millions of Doge and stuff, just to be funny. It's all gone. I don't have any of it left. I didn't have any of it left, And again, if I'd have just let it sit there, and that resonates. That's a really good lesson for all you new people. Like, if you've got whatever, a meme coin or something, and you got a ton of it, just leave it alone. If it's like whatever, you spent $20 on it and got a bunch of it, just leave it alone for a really long time, because that's your moonshot. It's not going to be like, oh, I bought this, let me wait a few months and see if it pumps. Oh, it didn't pump, and get rid of it. Just let it sit there. Just let it sit there a long time and trade real coins, trade real tokens.
Yeah, but don't put too much into it. And make sure you get I say respectable, but make sure you get like a decent meme. If you're gonna go the meme route, I mean,
Gotta pick a quality meme.
this is like off topic, so we don't even have anything written up for this. This is just my personal like experiences. Yeah, there's definitely like market leaders within memes. There's some that have longevity. There's some that kind of trend with the market more, and then there's some that probably no one on this entire stream right now ever heard of. And those are the ones that probably aren't going to make it.
Meme coins are fun though.
Well, the whole thing about meme coins is the fact that they rely on hype.
Mm-hmm.
If nobody knows about it, then it's not a very good meme coin.
Yeah, and there's some pretty stupid ones. I remember nothing in my opinion, nothing since last maybe March to April. Everything since then has been, even when the price is up, nothing's been a like psychological bull market. When you're in that psychological bull market, everything pumps.
Oh yeah.
Everything. Like people just ape into every darn thing that they can find. It's just wild.
Yeah.
And that's when you cash out those meme coins.
That 2017 run, man, that was insane. We would call it the shotgun investment, and you basically just buy 10 of anything.
I remember you telling me about this.
And one of them, one of them would cover your costs on the rest and make you a bunch of money. So it didn't matter. Everything was going crazy. You could sit there and just watch 1,000% happen in front of your eyes, just randomly.
I don't think we'll ever get to that level again.
I think we're balancing out.
Yeah,
it's shaking out all the nonsense, and all these terrible projects, and the scammy stuff is starting to shake out a little bit, and the market's starting to balance. That double top that we had, I feel like that could have. I had us mapped out to like 84,000. I thought we were going to land somewhere around 84,000. I think COVID snuffed us. I think that could have been an 84,000 run, and we got snuffed by COVID.
Yeah, there's something to be said. You know, I've often thought either COVID kind of hindered us a little bit, or it helped us, because the amount of cash that was dumped into the system by governments around the world, and the amount of that fueled investments, and then the amount of that which remains in the system till today. That may not have been possible. Now, what would have been nice, though, is if we did get another like 2017 type cycle, a little less mature, a little more emotional, more volatility, but you would have maybe gotten that blown off top that really drove altcoins to like insane levels the last cycle.
All that money they pumped in, though, that wasn't for us. You know, that was for corporations to soak up, and that's exactly what they did. It's exactly what happened. They threw all that money in, you know, at our costs, and the corporations all soaked it up and sat on it, and they're going to keep sitting on it until we hit the bottom that they see. You know,
as someone, I know Oz wasn't around for that, or at least old enough to comprehend it, but you know, looking back to like the 2008 market crash, and how like in the US, the government saved so many banks, saved, you know, all the biggest corporations like the automakers. And I don't remember all the specifics anymore, but I remember some of those, like the bank CEOs paying themselves their multi-million-dollar bonuses, even as like the global economy was literally like crashing. Like that's what your government does with your money. That's your tax money. That's all of our tax money. It's not like the government has, I mean, I guess the government can print its own money too, right? We've seen that, but still, that belongs to us. And these guys, the king Ponzi's are the banks and the corporations, really.
Absolutely, yeah. All that housing market crash, and they were, because
of their greed,
ripping off people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we had to clean it up with our tax money. We essentially bailed them out for screwing us over. That makes me so mad.
If you guys are younger and you didn't get to live through that, I remember them, and this certainly wasn't like the Great Depression or something, but it was still bad.
It was bad.
And a lot of the neighborhoods around here, entire blocks, block after block after block, nothing but foreclosed houses because people couldn't afford the mortgage, because the kind of the crux of that was that the banks were doing these really shady types of loans to people that they really knew couldn't pay it. And then they ended up with so much bad debt that the whole system collapsed.
Yeah, the Fed basically gave them a free pass to print money, and they used it to trick people into buying houses they couldn't afford. And then, okay, so I don't know this for sure, but don't they still get to keep the houses? Didn't the banks still get to keep the houses?
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't remember all the details, but I think they probably did.
Probably.
It's actually how I ended up with my first house. It was part of that.
Yeah.
So
what a nightmare. What a night. And we get to bail them out with our taxes.
Nice.
See, this is why this right here, that housing market crash, that's exactly why we need decentralization.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly why Satoshi did what he did.
Yeah. To try to filter out some of this corruption. Like how many government jobs do you think we can automate, you guys? Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh man.
How many little sniveling federal workers do you think we can turn into an algorithm? Wouldn't that be nice?
I live in the DC area, man. Don't be taking all my friends' jobs here. That's the only employer they got around here. Not the only, but it's definitely the biggest.
You're gonna have to hook me up with your tax man.
Shoot. Yeah. I could use a good tax man.
All right, what's next? What do we got?
Yeah, so next up, speaking of meme coins, Dogecoin rallied. So Dogecoin, would you guys consider that the king of meme coins, the OG? I mean, it's not my personal favorite. I'm just saying.
It's the OG. I like it because I like Doge. I like the idea of Doge. I like the idea of meme coins in general, just for the fact that people are like, oh, Doge will never go to 1 cent, or Doge will never go to 10 cents. Doge will never go to $1. The thing is that, yeah, you're right. That makes sense that it shouldn't. Okay. But it's like, we're kind of like experimenting with a global economy that we've never been able to experience before. I see these meme coins in some instances where like the functionality is there for Doge, you know what I mean? But it is kind of a joke. And so I see it as like an experiment. I find them fascinating. I do a lot of charting on like Shiba and stuff, and people think it's really funny, but I'm actually watching it. I am actually paying attention to what it's doing and trying to figure out why it's doing what it's doing, and it's interesting to watch.
Yeah, there's definitely a place for meme coins. Look, I am the oldest guy in this call, but hey, my generation invented the memes. I'm just gonna say we invented them. Oz, you weren't even born, and my generation was mastering the memes. But
wow, man. That's a bold claim.
The meme coins, they definitely have a place. Be like, life isn't all just super serious, right? We can have fun, and do business and do transactions. And like, I love my favorite meme coin. This is not a shill. Don't go buy this, please. I'll be so mad if this pumps like when we talked about Catcoin. But I love Bananos.
Yes.
And I think I mentioned it before because the Bananos community, in my humble poppy opinion, is the coolest place in crypto. Like, they don't even care about the value of the coin. It's just about community.
Yep.
Respect that so much. And that's really what Doge was before Doge decided to randomly moon and Elon adopted it. And to me, Doge is kind of warped a little bit from that original kind of vision. But
Elon messed it up for sure.
He did. But you're right. You know what? The thing's great about Doge is it does exceed everyone's expectations. Every time someone says it can't reach a certain price point, it's like, all right, fine, I'm going to knock it down. Although I do think $1 is an incredible reach where it is now.
And if everybody said the same thing about 1 cent and 10 cents and 50 cents and 74 cents and whatever we hit at the top. But that's the thing.
But this time it's different.
Yeah. But this time it might be. So this was the news item that led us to the Dogecoin discussion, which is that Elon Musk now owns 9% of Twitter's stocks. He's the largest external shareholder. I don't know who the largest internal is. I didn't actually look that up, but it's not important. Whatever. Elon Musk, largest investor in Twitter. And this is following. Like, I remember a week ago he was talking about Twitter, and I thought at the time the rumor was that he was going to start his own social media competitor to Twitter. Which recently it made the news that Trump did that, and it didn't seem to. So far, it hasn't seemed to be very successful. And there's some competitors out there. There's even decentralized options I've seen out there, but none of them have knocked Twitter off its pedestal. And my honest opinion,
Elon was going to start his own.
That was a rumor. But I don't think he is.
And then he remembered how much money he has, right? He's like, I can just buy the one that's already there.
But the reality is, instead he decided to become the largest external shareholder of Twitter. And the rumor is that, he could use this to kind of lobby for Dogecoin to be a currency on the platform. And honestly, I could see that being a good move. Meme coins as a secondary economy on social media platforms sounds like Reddit with the moons, right? Here's the thing. If you guys are from the Reddit side, you're listening right now. One, thank you. Love you guys. On the Discord side, the moon's integration on Discord has always been awkward and actually not very active on the Discord side. So for us, the moon's tipping and everything and the moon's farming, I'll be honest, I think Oz, you're probably the most active Redditor, but to me, the moon farming for like moons has been like a weird thing I don't understand. But I guess some people do it.
I didn't even know moons existed.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, I see the conversations
Not
a lot.
until like last week.
Yeah, I see people apparently farm for moons on Reddit.
Do you got more karma than me, Oz?
I might do. I'm not sure.
What do you have?
I got 883.
I've got 9.1 thousand.
Oh, wow.
All right. But you're like 3 times older than him, Mr. X.
Shh.
Yeah, you got a head start.
Nobody
That's
knows
not
I'm a
fair.
boomer yet, so let's just roll with that.
Yeah, so I don't even know how I got on that topic. Oh, so Dogecoin. Yeah, Dogecoin on Twitter, though. I think, my honest opinion is I think that could be a good fit. I mean, I'm excited. The thing I'm excited about on Twitter is to actually post my NFTs on there because I like just doing art for fun. That's just a thing I do as a hobby. I'm not a professional or anything. And I'd love to take some of the mints that I've done of my pictures and just like, boom, that's my NFT. Now it's my PFP verified as an NFT. That was a cool feature. And they have the tip wallets now, but I think, is it just Bitcoin or did they add the Ethereum yet? I think they were looking at Ethereum.
It was, I think I heard about this. Wasn't it Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Shiba? Didn't I read about this?
What do you mean Shiba? There's no Shiba on Twitter, man.
No, never mind.
Or if I'm wrong.
No. It was something. It was I'm sorry. It was an article about 500,000 vending machines in America are going to accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Shiba. Sorry, wrong article.
Okay.
That doesn't sound like that many.
Well, I don't know.
But still, that's actually, I didn't know about that. That actually is impressive for Shiba.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Shiba's been doing its best to kind of brand and market over the past year. I would consider it probably the main competitor in terms of dog canine coins in the market, right? Doge and Shiba.
Shiba to $50.
I know you're a big Shiba guy. That's physically impossible. There's not enough cash in the world.
Just print more.
Not enough cash in the history of the earth for that. just to give, and so Shib's actually worse than Doge, I think, in terms of emissions rate and like, so Dogecoin per day. Actually, let's do per minute. I think they average. You guys guess. Actually, I want to hear your guesses. Oz, how many Doge do you think are mined per minute? And they use the same kind of mining algorithm that Litecoin does, by the way, which is just a derivative of Bitcoin. So, how many do you think per minute?
100,000.
Right, Mr. X.
Per minute, probably, I don't know, 10,000 per minute. Yeah, 10,000. That's my guess.
Okay, Mr. X is exactly right. I don't know that he might have.
Oh, wow.
That.
I might have read that somewhere,
But
it felt right.
Definitely got up.
So that's like what, like 14 million a day, 14 million Doge a day.
It's crazy.
And so that's what you call like a high inflationary token, and that kind of works against it in gaining long-term sustainable value. Now that doesn't mean they can't change that. That obviously they could vote or they could whatever, they could elect to change that rate, but that is, according to this Google search, the last number that they have. So that's just an incredible number. And speaking of Litecoin, that is, to me, it's like baby Bitcoin, right? I have so much, I just like have this like quiet like love and respect for Litecoin. It's like the little what is that, the little train that could,
the little engine that could. Yeah. Litecoin has a special place in my heart because that was the first cryptocurrency that I ever purchased. My first purchase was in 2013 when what I was saying earlier about when I first started exploring and stuff. And I got on BTCE and I bought 2 Litecoin. They were $5.50 a piece, and it cost me $10 for the wire transfer and then some fees and stuff. It actually cost me more to like get the money there to buy them than it costs to actually get them. And then, so I'm like, okay, this is my first like real investment. I had never invested really in stocks or anything else before. So I'm like, okay, I know you're supposed to sit on it and let it appreciate in value. And so I waited a little while. And then the FBI seized the website for money laundering. And my funds got, my 2 little Litecoin got locked up for 2 years while they went to court. And then it was worth like $220 at the end of that when I got it back.
That's not that bad.
Yeah, except I bought Namecoin with it and it went right straight back down. So.
Yeah, if only it was Bitcoin. You know, that's my first coin too. So I think this is a common narrative too for a lot of people that invested before like 2021. The Litecoin was a popular target. It was cheaper. So you probably, if you were new to trading, you're like, well, this is, at the time, it was very popular. I advertised it as Bitcoin, the silver to Bitcoin's gold, right? And it was just basically a baby Bitcoin. It's basically functionally basic, the same thing, but cheaper. And people like that. They can buy more of it. That makes them feel good.
That was before we all developed the decimal point understanding that you can buy a little tiny piece of Bitcoin. So you felt like you had more Litecoin, so you would always go for the Litecoin first. It's only $35 for this one.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. I got lucky. I sold that. So lucky. I sold that in December of 2017. That Litecoin. And you know what happened? I think it was like soon after Litecoin hit its all-time high. I actually don't know if it ever got back to it. It got close. I know it got close last year. I don't know if it actually tapped it.
What was it, 300, I think?
Yeah, I forget now, but yeah.
I think it was around 300, I'm pretty sure. Because I remember, because that's when Charlie Lee sold all of his and dropped the mic, man. That was crazy.
Yeah, I still love Charlie Lee, man.
Oh, yeah. I think he's trying to get back into LTC too. Weren't they trying to do some kind of privacy protocol for Litecoin?
They did. Mimblewimble.
They did. Yeah, see, I did. I asked you about
which
that
I think
before.
is a Harry Potter reference.
Is it?
I think so. Yeah, if you Google it, I'm pretty sure it's like one of those spells. It's pretty cool. I would encourage you guys to check it out. I'm not saying go and ape into Litecoin or anything, but those projects it's just consistent. It's been there since the very beginning. It's one of the oldest projects. And even until last year, it was a top 10 pretty much, I think, every year in the market until this past year. And I understand why it's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit. It doesn't really offer, or it didn't offer a really compelling narrative for why to buy it last year. But it's at least still a solid project and worth looking into. A lot of history there.
Fun fact about Litecoin, I actually learned this the other day listening to an old podcast. I think this is still true. I didn't actually Google it since I listened to the podcast, but Litecoin is actually the longest running, consistently running network, even over Bitcoin, because even Bitcoin has gone down once.
That, I believe, is true.
I'm pretty sure.
I know Litecoin has 100% uptime, and that's one of the things that they like to say flex.
Heck yeah.
You got to respect that. Yeah, all the chains, they've had some drama at some point. Look at Ethereum. If you guys didn't know, Ethereum had this like major hack years ago. And they basically rolled back the chain, I don't even know how you call it, like the blockchain history to pretend like the hack didn't happen, I guess. Is that an accurate way to put it?
Who did that happen to?
Ethereum.
I don't remember that. Oh, is that when they locked up? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's what sparked the Ethereum Classic.
Yeah. What odds? I'm surprised you know about that, man. Yeah, that's where the Ethereum Classic came from, because that was a major division within the Ethereum community that, the code is law sentiment was strong, and people were like, hey, if you make an exception and you roll this back and pretend like it didn't happen. And I know I'm skipping over a lot of details. There's probably some Ethereum maxis that are very angry right now, right? But essentially that's what happened, right? They rolled it back and pretended like it didn't happen, and that's when it forked.
Ethereum Classic's still getting hacked too, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know.
This was like maybe a couple of years ago.
I think I saw something about that.
Yeah, they're still getting like 51% attacks, and everybody's still trading it. Y'all are nuts.
Well, that might be because it's just too small. You have that problem if there's not enough people mining it, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure who would want to mine Ethereum Classic.
Hey, but Grayscale, the largest owner of Bitcoin in the world, Grayscale is also proportionally the largest owner of Ethereum Classic.
Oh, really? Which
has been an interesting kind of like dilemma for my brain. Why? What do they see in it? But the fact remains that they are
long-term back holders.
They do invest in a lot of things, but it is still worth it. I think it's noteworthy to think that they have a dominating ownership of that particular, token. So let's move on. Let's move away from all these OG coins. Most of you are probably like, man, I don't care about any of this.
I'm feeling real nostalgic about it, though. I appreciate it, Poppy.
Yeah, we will not teleport back to those days again. We're going to talk about NFTs. So another acquisition this week, Pudgy Penguins. Pudgy Penguins. So they've had a bumpy year. For those who don't know, we're not going to get into all the drama, but there was a lot of community drama, and a lot of it involved their founder creator, which often happens in this space. A venture capitalist named Nets Capital bought them for $2.5 million, which means basically someone transferred them the contract ownership, and they get all the secondary sales revenue. When you trade on OpenSea or these other NFT marketplaces, the original creator can get a portion of your sell. That's a big kind of cool thing about NFTs, right?
Definitely.
The artists can always set themselves up to get some sort of passive income from their art. Something you don't typically see in non-crypto space, for artists. I thought that was interesting because that's we're almost kind of seeing a trend now, right? So Pudgy Penguins wasn't exactly high on the radar, but you might argue that it was undervalued because of the drama, because it definitely had a community around it. The artwork is very cute. I mean, who doesn't like cute penguins? But this is, on the heels of these other acquisitions, especially like the Bored Ape. Gosh, I'm having a brain fart now. Is it Larva Labs that owns that? I don't remember. Yeah, we just talked about this last week. So you guys got to get more into NFTs.
No.
But in any case, it's setting up a precedent where these venture capitalists, Yuga Labs is the one that has the Bored Apes. Yuga Labs bought the punks from Larva Labs. All these labs, everyone has labs. I see lots of labs. I saw some other companies are calling themselves labs too. Anyways, you're seeing this kind of trend now. And, it kind of makes me wonder what other acquisitions we're going to see. One of the ones, this isn't saying go out and buy this kind of stuff, right? But one of the ones I was really curious about, and you guys know, we play in this world, NFT world. It's basically a crypto enhanced, smart chain enhanced Minecraft world. When you step back a little bit, you see, okay, Microsoft has been on a massive acquisition spree over the past couple years. They bought major gaming companies. They bought Bethesda, who owns stuff like the Outer Scrolls series, like Skyrim, Oblivion. They bought Blizzard, right? Blizzard, the team that makes StarCraft, Warcraft, World of Warcraft. I'm sure everyone's heard of that, right? Microsoft has been buying these companies left and right because they're just so rich. They don't care. They buy these massive companies. So anyways, Minecraft was one of their acquisitions a few years ago. So now you have this Minecraft enabled, compatible metaverse, and it's left some people wondering, well, hey, is Microsoft maybe going to be an investor in that? Maybe they're going to acquire that, because it's a lot easier, as these venture capitalists and these other corporations are realizing, to sometimes just buy your way into the space versus trying to create it yourself. Yeah, so the metaverse space is so like intertwined. They're talking about the Bored Ape metaverse, and I know, Oz, this is going back to you. So they talk about the Bored Ape metaverse, and this is going to be very spicy, right? But what a lot of people don't know is there's a relationship between the company that is still building Sandbox and Yuga Labs, the guys that own Bored Apes. Have you heard this, Oz?
Oh, yeah, I think I remember you telling me about this. Isn't it like one of the head guys is on the Yuga Labs board, or the ape token board, or whatever it was?
Part of Ape DAO. Yeah, the ape token organization. Yeah, is part of the Sandbox team.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, yeah. So these are little things to think about too, as you're doing trading on the NFT space. And you've seen some big acquisitions in the past year, like Nike and Adidas is a great example. And there were some people that put the pieces of the puzzle together before the acquisition and made a lot of money. I remember the was like I don't even know how to say it, like RKTF, I think.
Artifact, I think it is. That's how it's like meant to be said. Artifact.
See, this is why you speak the Queen's English, the true English. Yeah, RTFKT. Oh, that was Nike. That was the
Yeah,
Nike one. Oh yeah, Clone X was Clone X the Adidas one? I can't
I
remember.
think that was Adidas or Adidas, as it's known everywhere else in the world.
I'm like an amateur NFT guy. I'm not as advanced as some of these guys. But in any case, I remember the headlines at the time was that a lot of these people bought those NFTs for the first time. There was a sudden out of nowhere spike to buy these right before Nike announced, "Hey, we're acquiring this brand, this NFT brand." Put the pieces together, you make a lot of money. Follow the clues, figure it out. So what's next? What's next? Let's move on. Oh yeah, this one. This one was spicy. OpenSea enabled NFT purchases with credit cards and Apple Pay. Man, that's crazy because think about the real breakout market from crypto over the past year was NFTs. Absolutely was NFTs. Like to me, there's no comparison. And because it's so accessible and it's easy for like the common person to understand. Either you like the art, you like the game, you like the artist, the culture, whatever it is. Like humans always have an affinity towards the arts, music, visual arts, movies, whatever it is. We just love it, right? We can't help ourselves. And so it's no surprise that NFTs have had the kind of explosive breakout that they have.
Mm-hmm.
But now that OpenSea is making crypto purchases accessible through credit cards and Apple Pay, man, that's spicy. So Mr. X, you are not a fan of NFTs. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
I make it sound harsher than it is. You're not active in the NFT space. Would be
No, I mean I've dabbled a little bit, but again, like I said the last time I was on, I'm waiting for the utility. Like ticket sales, for example, that I like. That's genius, especially with like you were talking about before about with these smart contracts, you're able to adjust. Okay, so Ticketmaster sells tickets for a concert, right? And then scalpers can't resell them if Ticketmaster decides so. Or if scalpers do resell them, maybe the scalper can only take 10% and 90% of that sale goes directly to Ticketmaster. That's cool. That's utility. I like that. That's a good idea. And then every ticket's unique. You can't make a fake one and so on and so forth. As far as like the images and stuff of NFTs, it also has its purpose in the fact that you're able to buy and sell unique licenses to, digital art or any digital file, actually. That's cool too. But no, as far as like generic pictures of rocks for $4 million, I'm not into that. Not into that.
Yeah, I don't disagree that there's some really silly stuff that people pay a lot of money for, and you have these like NFT historians and they're like, well, this was in the first 6 months of whatever of Ethereum going live, and it might be a picture of whatever, a tree, but it's a rare picture of a tree. There might be some merit to that. I guess it just depends on how much of a like NFT maxi you are. There are some projects I've seen that look at that NFT ticketing dilemma. I know, having had to suffer through trying to buy tickets for like concerts and stuff. That's a painful thing to go through because the bots scoop up everything and then try to resell a ticket.
Yeah, or reusable coupons at wherever. That's a good idea too. That could work really well.
At some point, though, I always think, are we over-engineering it? Because sometimes maybe a coupon is just better as a coupon. Maybe you're 5% off my beer. Maybe it just needs to be a coupon. But does it need to be an NFT? I don't know.
Does it need to be clipped out of the newspaper, Boomer?
Okay, no. maybe that is a little boomerish. But they do have. So, for example, like the NFL. NFL is one that late last year announced that they were adding some NFTs to their tickets. So to be eligible, I think you need to get the ticket first, but then you could redeem the NFT if you were at a qualifying, game. For everyone that's not in the U.S., that's the National Football League in the U.S. is the funny version of football that we don't actually use our feet for very much. But still, it's a very big sport, and I think you're seeing that a lot more. And that musicians. There's actually an NFT project I'm in that he's is a musician that integrates the NFTs into his live performance. I'm not going to show. We try not to show here, but it's pretty cool because they have these like 3D avatars that you can buy, and each of them comes with like different songs and stuff. I don't know. I thought it was really neat. And I think these are just the early stages of what we're going to see.
Yeah.
Going into like live performances and how to integrate that kind of stuff.
People are getting into like badges and stuff. You know about that, like the ones for the banana calls that they do. And you get a badge for all the.
Yeah, those are like POAPs, I think. So POAPs, if I remember right, POAPs are basically like a free NFT. If I was going to put it that way, like participation badge.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Hey,
I was there.
I was there. I attended. I participated.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other cool stuff. I mean, I just did a quick Google. There's like Coachella. Coachella has NFTs now, apparently. So I guess everyone's trying to do NFTs. Who knows?
See, here we go. Meredith from Oasis Protocol is saying staking your medical data for research to improve the efficiency of treatments.
That sounds so cool.
Tokenizing your own data. See, okay, I love this idea because, out of left field, all of a sudden we discover that, Facebook and all these other corporations are sifting data from us unknowingly to us and selling it to other companies. The same way like you store your money in a bank, the bank trades it overnight on foreign exchanges, and makes a bunch of money off of it and then gives you 0.01%, right? Those days are coming to an end. Now that we're taking responsibility for, being our own banks, we also need to be taking responsibility for our own data. If anybody's going to make money off of, my purchase history, it should be me, for sure.
There's a lot to be said for using the blockchain to store a lot of the data, a lot of the information that governments and corporations have and use. And you can spend a lot of time diving into that. But, I've seen a few projects that are trying to tackle that kind of issue. The KYC one is a frequent one, not just for us as investors having a KYC and finding, a way to do that kind of pseudo anonymously to where it's kind of protected and encrypted on the chain. But for developers too, one of the things I thought was cool was that there was a couple projects where they will basically KYC you, and then it's stored on the blockchain, but it's not publicly accessible unless, if there's like a court order or something, right? Then they would honor it. They would unlock that information and provide it to you. So then that way they can validate that, hey, these are real people. We have their information. So if they do something shady, we can provide you as investors that information, and then you can do whatever. You can contact them. You can take them to court if you need to, those kind of things. So it adds a layer of trust on both ends there, right? And I thought that was neat. But it also does it in a way that doesn't just put your information out there for everyone to see, because not everyone is comfortable with their information out there in the public. And
yeah,
I don't blame them, because I've been in enough projects to see these dudes like throwing death threats around and stuff because a token or a coin went down in price or something. Like it's kind of crazy sometimes. Let's see. I think we have one last thing, and then maybe it's time to go into the Q&A.
Yeah, I think it's about time.
The EU has been talking about, there's a proposal to require KYC for crypto transactions. And this includes stuff that's non-custodial, like MetaMask, which has some people worried, and understandably, there's a bit of financial freedom that comes with that ability to transact over things like that. We could say pseudo-anonymously, but also, where does it stop? And, if they start to have that information, can they restrict you from using it, and so on and so forth? There's a lot of concerns about this. I think the only thing we wanted to note was that this isn't, and Oz, you may know better than me being in the EU. Well, okay, funny, you're not in the EU anymore, but next to the EU. But I believe that's not actually finalized. I believe that's been proposed, and it's got to go through some other wickets within the EU before it's actually ratified and approved, right? So there's time to contact your respective governments and let them know how you feel about that. and then they in turn, yeah,
Same over here, man.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
know.
same over here.
I know. It's hard. On one hand, yeah, I agree. There's a certain level of like apathy. It gets frustrating dealing with politicians, but the reality is they do listen. You know,
It's funny you think they'd listen. They really hate crypto.
Here's the reality. What are they gonna do? You know, like
Not much anymore.
when it comes down to it, they don't have authority over this. They don't have authority over a decentralized cryptocurrency. They're fighting it. All these countries are trying to ban it, and regulate it, and yada yada yada. And it's no matter what they do, it's still going to work because it's better technology. Period.
yes and no. I agree. I do agree that you're never going to be able to like wholly shut it down. But remember, most of these brands like MetaMask is corporate owned. It's not community funded, and it's the most popular wallet out there. So of course, everyone could switch from like their Trezors and their MetaMask to something else. But it's not going to be a regulated solution. And
Corporations are going to follow the users. They're going to follow the money. And if we start using decentralized stuff instead of centralized corporate made wallets, then that's what they're going to start building.
I would love to see that. Yeah. I guess I just have more doubts. Like I feel like if the regulation comes down, that really, they don't have many recourse.
They're really trying to put the brakes on us. Like all these major governments, they're really trying to put the brakes on this because it's crippling their grip over their ability to control finance of their entire population, and it's scaring the shit out of them, to put it bluntly.
Kind of understandable in a way too, though, right? The government exists by way of taxing its people. I mean, you got to fund it somehow, but
Yeah.
Still, I think there's a lot to be said for the financial freedom that this enables, and so definitely reach out to your politicians in the EU. I think this is important. And it's not guaranteed that it's going to pass. It's just a possibility. So, time for some Q&A, right? And Oz, if you have any parting thoughts, we actually got to go source some questions. So, I don't know. What are you thinking?
I'd say take it with a grain of salt for now. The EU, they like to propose a lot of stuff. A lot of it doesn't happen. I mean, the EU politics is a hot fuzz of mess. Sometimes it works really well, and sometimes it doesn't. And there are very big mixed opinions between different governments about the utility of crypto. And I mean, you can look at countries like Germany, which I think are pretty anti-crypto, or at least the government is. And then in the same, what's it called, like governmental setup, I guess, whatever you'd call the EU, same grouping, you have like Portugal, who are very strongly pro-crypto. They don't have tax on crypto, and it's sort of like a crypto haven. So, there are mixed opinions across the board, and I don't think the fact that it's a proposal is like a clear sign of what they're going to do, because at the end of the day, they might reject it, they might not, but what are they going to do? It's a decentralized network for the most part. A lot of crypto is. So the decentralized ones will probably do pretty good, regardless of what the EU thinks. Thinks.